Gabrielle Bernstein is on speed dial for women who need some how-to instructions to get to enlightenment, or at least find some ways to tap into their inner guides rather than their hairdressers and their egos. Gabrielle escaped from her she slightly tortured life as a New York City publicist and party girl to become a life coach and popular guru for the next generation. Some of her story and Course in Miracles advice is wrapped in her second book called Spirit Junkie. It is my pleasure to welcome Gabrielle Bernstein to Vancouver, to Studio 4, to tell us more.
It's wonderful to be with you.
It's nice to meet you. Now, you say in Spirit Junkie, it's lucky you have a theater degree.
Yes.
Because you were a very good actor for a few years. Take me back to your party girl days, your Sex and the City days.
Yes. Well, I was living a life where I was projecting a much different mindset onto my life than I am living today, and acting out this different role of what it seemed to be happy, looking for happiness in all the wrong places, trying to be happy from my credentials or my pairs of shoes or my relationships, and on this outside search. And by the time I turned 25, I had no other choice but to turn inward, because that outside stuff did not work. And this book is my story of how I turned my search for happiness to an internal condition and have resurrected my thoughts, and today live the life of a spirit junkie.
And did you have an aha moment, a day that changed it all for you? Was it gradual? What happened?
Yes, I had a day, I had a moment. On October 2nd, 2005, I woke up. I went to sleep that night saying, this is not working, my life is not flowing, I'm internally bankrupt, and I feel as though I must have a better way. And I woke up that morning and I heard an inner voice, which I call my ing, my inner guide, spoke very loud and authoritative voice that said, clean up your act and you will have a life beyond your wildest dreams.
Which meant, and you pointed out clearly in Spirit Junkie, you had to dump your ego just a bit and embrace love instead of fear. Now that all sounds good.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
The first part is to become willing to see things differently, because I was living in such a way of really perceiving fear in every corner of my life, and recognizing that and becoming willing and surrendering to a better path and to a different approach was really the first step. And that's the first step for anyone that wants to make change and wants to release their fears, is to become conscious that the fear is there and be willing to change it. And that willingness is with me and present every single day of my life, and I have to maintain that willingness to live in this way.
How do you tap into your inner guide?
So there's many ways that I have deepened this relationship to my inner guidance system, and I tap into this connectedness on a moment-to-moment basis through my breath, through my positive intentions. So my intentions are creating that connection. If I choose to think with a fear-based mentality, I cut off communication with that inner guidance system. But if I choose to tune in, if I choose to say, I will let that go, I forgive that person, I release that negative thought, I can tune back in and recalibrate that loving mindset and that loving energy, which is really what it's about.
Well, and in your current life, the F word is not the F word. F stands for forgiveness.
That's right, yes. So I practice the F word like a full-time job. And one of the primary principles of A Course in Miracles, which is what I teach, is practicing forgiveness. And that forgiveness is really the bedrock of a spiritual practice. And when we can bring forgiveness into our life and we can start to open up to a forgiving mindset, we can really see miraculous shifts within our relationships, and most importantly, within our relationship to ourselves.
Well, wise people have often said there are no chance encounters.
That's right.
If you're having an event with a boyfriend or a mother or a father or a kid, there's a reason.
Yes.
Tell me about your boyfriend, your first romance.
Yes. Well, A Course in Miracles says that no one is brought to anyone by accident. And so we are always being guided into relationships, whether it be you and I meeting just today. This is an opportunity for a holy encounter. We have an opportunity to create more love in the world, or we can go the other direction.
Or have a not so holy
Yes,
instance.
exactly. And there's many opportunities to have not holy instances. But in my case, I talk a lot about my romantic relationships have been great assignments in my life. And the Course teaches that all relationships are assignments. And they're assignments to oftentimes bring up all of our funky stuff so that we have no other choice but to turn inward and really deepen our connection to a spiritual understanding and deepen our connection to forgiveness.
In so many ways, mirrors.
That's exactly right, yes. That the outside world is a reflection of our internal state. And when we have discomfort in our relationships and we're pointing the finger at others, we can often use that as an opportunity to say, rather than saying, you're wrong, look at ourselves and say, what is it that I need to work on here? What is it that I need to clean up?
Course in Miracles was a channeled work, as I recall, and very powerful work, metaphysical work. How did you get into it initially?
Yes, so when the student is ready, the teacher falls off the shelf. And
apparently.
And this is a big book to fall off the shelf. But it became, really my first guide was Marianne Williamson, and she is the rock star teacher of A Course in Miracles. And she came into my life in the form of a book at first, and then in the form of her lecture series. And I would listen to her audio, like top 40 hits, and I became a Marianne junkie. And very early on in my practice with Marianne, within the first year of studying the course through her eyes, it became clear to me that I was to be teaching this work myself. And I asked Marianne, I said, how would you suggest I carry this message to my generation? And she said, read the text and do the workbook and read the teacher's manual. And then ask God how he plans for you to share this with your generation.
And that takes guts.
Yes, yes.
What were your fears around it? Because I know our goal in life, supposedly, is to let go of our fears and embrace love, to not listen to our ego, to not let our ego take over, but to listen to the message inside.
Yes.
But there are days when that doesn't work out all that well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of obstacles. There's plenty of opportunities to choose fear. And being a student of metaphysics, or a student of love, if you want to say, or a spirit junkie, the whole practice of being a spirit junkie is just to make the life commitment to choose to perceive love in all situations on a moment-to-moment basis. So to choose forgiveness, to choose gratitude rather than negativity, to choose a more loving, positive perspective moment to moment, and that's when the miracles occur.
Which means, you have to believe in miracles.
That's right.
And B, you have to be able to take judgment out of your life.
Yes, absolutely.
That's not so
You
easy
read my
either.
book very nicely.
I did, and I've read a few others.
Yes.
And I did study Course in Miracles many moons ago. So when the monkey chatters in your head, your ego gets going, and somebody listening to Spirit Junkie today or this discussion is in the audience thinking, what?
Yeah.
That's a bunch of bunk.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the ego?
Yes, so we are hardwired at this point in time to be believing in fear. We have many of us have more faith in fear than we do in love.
Right, not Freud's ego, by the way.
Right, this is not to be confused with Freud's ego. This is, from a Course perspective, ego is synonymous with fear. So we can talk about the fear-based mind, the mind that keeps you stuck, the mind that keeps you small, keeps you in the old patterns, keeps you from going after that job or that relationship or getting into the gym. And that voice is so strong that it keeps us stuck, keeps us in negative places. And the only way out of that stuck pattern and that faith in fear is to, one moment at a time, choose to see it differently.
Well, when you step into the unknown, and I think you wrote this, anything is possible in life.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that, but when you are in love with drugs, illicit drugs, or legal drugs, when you're an addict, when you're in poverty, where do you start?
Well, I'm very open about my own personal recovery in this book, and I am a recovering addict, drug addict, love addict, work addict, food addict. It's all recovered, and I fearlessly announce that truth to my readers because, exactly your point, there are many people that come to this work and they say, well, how do I get out? I'm here. Well, I was there, and like I said earlier, the most powerful way to begin that process is to truly surrender to a better plan than yours and to release.
Well, they say, whoever they are, the universe will not throw you anything you can't handle.
That's right. Yeah.
Just doesn't.
That's right. Yeah.
Surprising to us, but apparently it doesn't.
And that there is a tremendous amount of guidance for all of us at all times, that we just have to be awake for it. We have to open up that line of communication so that we can receive that guidance. And if we are not asking for help, whether it be through prayer or whether it be out loud in our voice or in a written word on the page of a journal, if we're not asking for that help, we will not be awake enough to receive it.
Many of us, too, spend a lot of time trying to figure our lives out rather than just being.
Yes.
we're trying to figure out who we are, what we want, what the meaning of life of, and in search of meaning.
Yep.
Do you do that?
Not anymore, not anymore. I spent many years living in a way where I was controlling and manipulating my outside circumstances and trying to figure it all out. Where today I know that if I stay committed to my life's purpose, which is to be a messenger for these tools and to live and practice these principles in all of my affairs, I know that I am being guided. I know that I am being taken care of. I know that I'm sitting with the right person in this moment at the right time. And I really trust that divine guidance. And that takes practice.
And do you call it your ing or the light inside or God? Do you need to call it anything?
This is semantics. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, right?
It's a nice gerund.
Exactly. I just turned a gerund into inner guide.
Right.
And so I refer to ing as my inner guidance system. And a big part of what I'm doing as a next generation teacher is really expanding the spiritual lexicon for this new generation. So where many of my followers have had a hard time saying God or Holy Spirit, ing resonates with them. Spirit junkie resonates with them. And the content of what I teach is no different than Marianne or Wayne Dyer or Deepak Chopra. It just comes in a package that's relevant to this new generation and is going to be easy for them to allow to fall off the shelf.
How are the Sex and the City girls, and I use it as a term, your generation, how are you different than my generation?
Great question, yeah.
What's different?
Well, a lot of things are different. I mean, we're obviously, each generation has its own pain body, has its own experience of what's going on. Speaking on behalf of my generation, we're living in a time where we see these infinite possibilities because our contemporaries are starting little companies like Facebook, right?
Right.
But,
hold that company.
And so we have this belief system of entrepreneurship, and we have this belief system, I can do that, but then we also have this infinite amount of darkness as well, whether it be the recession and the war and a lot of the negativity that we experience just by being humans at this time. And so there's just sort of duality between what we are capable of and versus what we are told we cannot do. And so I think there's a lot of inner turmoil there of people really wanting to step into their power but not being able to.
And as you know so well, every generation has faced adversity and war and not climate change, but other things. Do you think that no matter what your problem is, there is a spiritual answer?
Yes.
No matter what your problem is?
Yes, I definitely know and believe that there is a spiritual solution for every problem. And this is, in the most dark, most dire scenarios, you have two choices at all times. You can choose to focus on the darkness, or you can choose to open up a new perception. And if you don't know what that is, many times it's like, if you have an illness, or if you have a family member that's not well, or if you are, in a very, very dark scenario, you may have no idea what that other perspective is. But what I teach is that you have to just allow yourself to open up the willingness to ask for a better way.
And think about how you think about things.
That's right.
Because thoughts are real forces.
Yes.
So it's really not what happens to you so much as how you feel about what happens to you.
That's exactly right. So our thoughts inform our energy, and our energy informs our outside experience, our life's experience. So we're just vibrating at different frequencies. You and I happen to be vibrating at the same frequency right now, so we're having a very nice conversation. But sometimes when we don't have that same internal dialogue of high-level thoughts, we can be in a low-level experience. So it's really recognizing how our thoughts are informing our life's experience.
Well, certainly we've all come up against others in a shopping mall or a parking garage who do not vibrate at the same level as we do, perhaps at a higher level, perhaps at a lower level. But there is a synchronicity when you meet someone, or there's a spark, and we've all had that experience. You meet someone for the first time, not a chance encounter, you go, this works.
That's right.
No idea why. Do you think that's inner guide talking to inner guide, or what is it?
Well, I mean, it's also quantum physics, right? It's it's just energy matches, and it's this this vibration vibrates next to its likeness, and this is very, very simple, the simplest way to put it. Meanwhile, I also genuinely believe that when we start to clear our negative thoughts out, and we start to raise our perceptions, we begin to attract more like-minded people.
Right, or you trust that somehow Spirit has your back.
That's right.
Or your God has your back, or Allah has your back, someone has your back.
The universe has your back.
The universe has your back. The light inside has your back, and if you can tune into it, the answer is there. Sometimes not the answer you want.
Sometimes it's not what you think you want, but it is what you're going to want.
But I guess it is down the road. Spirit Junkie is her new book. Gabrielle Bernstein, our guest, forward by Marianne Williamson, A Radical Road to Self-Love and Miracles. After this.